Sam Winters stared at his radar screen, rubbing his tired eyes. The red dot hadn't moved for 3 hours. Standard procedure said he should report it, but out here near Mars, glitches happened all the time. Command, this is Patrol Ship Delta. I'm tracking an unidentified object in Sector 7. Request permission to investigate. Delta, this is Command. Approach with caution. Maintain open channel. Sam guided his small patrol vessel closer to the mysterious object. As the distance closed, he realized this was no asteroid or space debris. The metallic surface gleamed with an unnatural smoothness, its design unlike anything Earth engineers had created. Command, I think we have our first confirmed alien tech. Roughly 3 meters in diameter, spherical with strange markings. Static filled his comms for several seconds before Command responded, their voice noticeably tenser. Stay back, Lieutenant. We're sending reinforcements. Sam knew reinforcements were 4 hours away at best. The object was doing nothing threatening, simply hovering. His curiosity won out. I'm going to attempt a passive scan. The moment his ship's sensors activated, the alien probe pulsed with blue light. Sam's instruments went crazy, data flooding his screens faster than he could process. It's scanning us back, he muttered, watching as the probe thoroughly examined his ship. 200 million kilometers away, Commander Volk received the data transmission. His scaled skin rippled with excitement as he reviewed the findings. Another patrol craft. He noted to his second in command. Small, lightly armed, primitive shielding. These humans seem physically frail, his officer replied, studying the biological readings. Look at their muscle density compared to ours. And their response times are slow. Volk made a dismissive gesture with his clawed hand. Don't underestimate them. They've advanced from primitive flight to space travel in less than a century. Their rate of technological development is concerning. Back at his ship, Sam was attempting something unconventional. The probe kept scanning, seemingly trying to understand human technology. Sam decided to send a simple mathematical sequence through his communications array. Let's see if you understand this, he said to himself, transmitting the first 10 prime numbers. The probe paused. Then it responded with the next 5 prime numbers in sequence. Sam's heart raced. Command, we have two-way communication. It understands basic mathematics. In his command center, Volk watched this exchange with growing concern. This human deviated from their protocol to establish communication, he told his officers. Their adaptability is exactly what makes them dangerous. They think independently, improvise when faced with the unknown. Should we destroy the probe? His weapons officer asked. No. Let's see how far they go. This confirms what I've been telling the High Command. Humans must be dealt with before they advance further. On Earth, emergency meetings convened among world leaders as Sam's discovery spread through classified channels. The UN Security Council gathered in New York, while military commands worldwide went to heightened alert. We need to respond carefully, argued the Secretary General. This could be first contact with a peaceful civilization, or it could be reconnaissance before an invasion, countered the U.S. representative. We need to mobilize our defenses. Either way, said China's ambassador, we must present a united front. Humanity stands together in this moment. Sam remained with the probe, continuing to exchange increasingly complex mathematical formulas. He felt both excitement and dread. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. Command wants me to back away, he told the silent probe. But I think you and I are making history here. Little did Sam know that his discovery had already been reported to the Craxian War Council, where Commander Volk was making a very different kind of history, arguing for the first preemptive strike against a developing world. 6 weeks after Sam's discovery, Earth's attempts at peaceful communication had failed. The Craxian Empire viewed human diplomatic messages as deceptive, too careful, too measured to be trustworthy. They hide their true intentions, Commander Volk told the Craxian High Command. They speak of peace while their military vessels patrol their outer planets. They are preparing for war while pretending to want friendship. The High Command, already wary of emerging civilizations, needed little convincing. They authorized a military expedition to the Sol system, officially as a diplomatic show of force, but Vrok's personal orders were more aggressive. "We will demonstrate our superiority," he told his fleet captains. "When humans see our technology, they will understand resistance is foolish." On Earth, Captain Maria Diaz reviewed the defense plans for the 5th time that day. Stationed aboard Earth's largest orbital platform, she commanded the first line of defense against the approaching alien fleet. "How many ships are we tracking now?" she asked her sensor officer. 7 confirmed vessels, Captain. They're moving slowly, deliberately, approaching Jupiter's orbit. Maria nodded grimly. Earth had only 11 combat-capable spacecraft. Most were retrofitted research vessels, hastily armed with experimental weapons. The international fleet had been cobbled together from various space programs after Sam's discovery. All crews on standby. "I want weapons hot but not targeted. Let's not appear hostile unless they make the first move." Near Jupiter's moon Europa, Lieutenant Nick Foster piloted his patrol ship with 2 others, forming a small picket line. Their orders were to observe and report, not engage. "Got movement," his co-pilot said. 3 smaller vessels breaking off from their main fleet. Nick's hands tightened on the controls. "Command, we have 3 bogies approaching our position. Request instructions." "Maintain position," came Maria's steady voice. "Do not power weapons unless directly threatened." The Craxian scout ships closed rapidly. Nick watched, heart pounding, as they took up positions surrounding his small formation. In his command ship, Vrok observed the humans' response. Notice how they hold position. Disciplined, but revealing their defensive capabilities. Scan their vessels thoroughly. The scanning beams activated, probing the human ships. Nick's instruments flickered as alien technology attempted to read their systems. "They're scanning us, trying to assess our weapons," Nick radioed. "Should we block it?" Maria hesitated before answering. "Negative. Let them look. We have nothing to hide." This was a calculated decision. Earth's ships carried several surprises. Weapon systems that remained dormant, shielded from scans. The standoff continued for 17 minutes before one Craxian scout suddenly accelerated, circling Nick's formation at high speed. "They're testing our tracking systems," Nick realized, "seeing how well we can follow rapid movement." He made a split-second decision, rotating his ship to track the alien vessel, not with weapons but with communication arrays. The maneuver was unorthodox but effective, keeping the alien in sight without appearing aggressive. Vrok watched this with narrowed eyes. Interesting. They use non-weapon systems to maintain visual. Clever. The tension broke when the Craxian scout fired a warning shot, an energy pulse that deliberately missed Nick's ship by meters. They fired. Nick's co-pilot shouted. "Hold position," Nick ordered, though every instinct screamed to return fire. "It was a test. They want us to show our weapons." Maria's voice came through comms. "All ships maintain discipline. This is exactly what they want, to provoke us into revealing our capabilities." In his command ship, Vrok hissed with frustration. "These humans are more controlled than anticipated. Their restraint suggests either confidence or desperation." He turned to his second. "Prepare the main fleet. Their restraint tells me they are hiding something. We will need to force their hand." As the Craxian scouts rejoined their fleet, Nick exchanged looks with his co-pilot. Both knew the brief encounter was only the beginning. The orbital station shook violently as another Craxian weapon found its mark. Commander Greg Phillips braced himself against the wall, watching as his crew fought to maintain critical systems. "Evacuation status," he shouted over the alarms. "Civilian section at 70% cleared," his second officer replied. "But we're losing hull integrity in sections 4 through 7. Greg made his way to the command console, stepping over debris as the station took another hit. The attack had come without warning. Vrolk had abandoned all pretense of diplomacy and launched a full assault on Earth's orbital defenses. "Reroute power to the remaining escape shuttles," Greg ordered, "and get me a direct line to Earth Command." Outside, the blackness of space was broken by the flashes of weapons fire. 3 Craxian warships methodically destroyed Earth's defensive satellites, while smaller craft targeted the station itself. Down on Earth, military leaders gathered in an underground command center. General Laura Hayes studied the tactical display with growing dread. "We've lost contact with the New Delhi space platform," an aide reported. "Beijing Station reports critical damage." "And Phillips?" Laura asked. "Still transmitting. They're evacuating civilians but taking heavy fire." Laura closed her eyes briefly. The Craxian attack had caught them off guard, despite all preparations. Vrolk had waited until Earth's leaders were divided on how to proceed, then struck with overwhelming force. "Connect all remaining military channels," she ordered. "As of now, we operate as one unified force. National boundaries are meaningless." Aboard his flagship, Commander Vrolk watched the battle with satisfaction. The humans' orbital defenses were crumbling faster than expected. "Their technology is primitive," his tactical officer noted. "Their weapons barely penetrate our shields. Yet they continue fighting," Vrolk responded, watching a small human vessel deliberately ram a Craxian scout ship. "They sacrifice themselves to save others." "Irrational." "Perhaps they hope to delay us," another officer suggested. Vrolk studied the tactical display. "Perhaps, but delay will not save them." He turned to his communications officer. "Prepare the message about the beasts. Let's see how they respond to true fear." Back at the crippled orbital station, Gray helped a wounded civilian into the last escape shuttle. "That's everyone from this section," his medical officer confirmed. "But we still have people trapped in the research wing." Greg nodded grimly. "Take this shuttle down. I'll get the others." "Sir, if you stay." "That's an order. These people need medical attention now." As the shuttle departed, Greg made his way through smoke-filled corridors toward the research wing. The station shuddered continuously under Craxian attack. On Earth, leaders watched helplessly as their orbital defenses were systematically destroyed. Then every communication system on the planet simultaneously activated. Vrolk's scaled face appeared on screens worldwide. "People of Earth," he began, his voice translated by the computers Sam had first encountered. "Your defenses are failing. Your militaries cannot protect you. But we are not without mercy." Laura and other leaders listened intently, searching for any weakness or opportunity in the alien's words. "Submit to Craxian authority, and you may live as a protected species. Resist, and we will unleash forces you cannot comprehend." Vrolk's image was replaced by footage of massive containment units being loaded aboard Craxian ships. "We bring the beasts, hunters created to subdue resistant populations. They will be released in your cities unless you surrender within one planetary rotation." The transmission ended, leaving Earth's leaders in stunned silence. In the orbital station, Gray had reached the trapped researchers just as the message played on their emergency systems. They looked to him for hope. "We don't surrender," Gray told them firmly. "Now let's find a way off this station and show these aliens what humans are really made of." The Craxian drop pods fell like meteors from the sky. Each major city on Earth reported multiple impacts as the alien vessels crashed through clouds and skyscrapers alike. Military forces scrambled to respond, but they were spread too thin. "Containment breach confirmed in sectors 4 and 7, reported a soldier to General Laura Hayes. "The beasts are loose in Chicago and Dallas." Laura watched the live footage with horror. The creatures emerging from the pod stood taller than wolves, but moved with terrifying speed. Their bodies were covered in armor-like plates, and their jaws could crush concrete. Most disturbing were their eyes. Intelligent, calculating, scanning their surroundings with predatory focus. "What about the civilians?" Laura asked. "Evacuation is underway, but it's chaos. These things hunt in packs. Across every screen and device on Earth, Commander Vrok's message played on repeat. We unleash the beast upon your kind. Submit or be hunted. In rural Nebraska, far from any major city, Kelly Martinez was checking her farm's fences when she saw the streak of fire across the morning sky. Unlike the news reports showing dozens of pods hitting urban centers, this was a single object, moving erratically. That's not right, she muttered, watching as it crashed into her north field. Kelly approached cautiously, rifle in hand. The small pod had carved a path through her corn before coming to rest near the creek. It looked damaged, nothing like the perfect alien cylinders on the news. As she got closer, she could see it had cracked open during impact. Something moved inside. Kelly raised her rifle, expecting one of the monstrous beasts she'd seen in the emergency broadcasts. Instead, a smaller creature stumbled out, clearly injured, barely larger than a regular wolf pup. Its armored plates weren't fully developed, and one of its legs was bleeding. It looked up at Kelly and made a sound somewhere between a whimper and a growl. You're just a baby, Kelly realized, lowering her weapon slightly. A baby monster, but still. The creature collapsed, its breathing labored. Kelly knew she should report this, maybe even kill it before it grew into the killing machine it was designed to be. But something in its pained eyes stopped her. Meanwhile, in Chicago, people fled through streets as adult beasts coordinated their hunting patterns with frightening intelligence. They communicated through subsonic growls, herding humans into kill zones. They're not just animals, reported a surviving soldier. They're working together, cutting off escape routes. In his command ship, Vrok watched the unfolding terror with satisfaction. See how they run, he told his officers. The psychological impact is even greater than the physical threat. Some humans are fighting back, his tactical officer noted, showing footage of military units engaging beasts with heavy weapons. They may kill a few, Vrok dismissed, but the beasts learn from each encounter. They evolve their tactics. Soon the humans will understand resistance only brings more suffering. Back in Nebraska, Kelly had made a decision that would have shocked anyone who knew what she was dealing with. She'd brought the injured beast cub to her barn and was treating its wounds. You probably understand everything I'm saying, she told it, wrapping its injured leg. You're supposed to be killing me, not letting me help you. The creature watched her warily, but didn't resist. When Kelly offered water, it drank gratefully. I'm going to call you Scout, she said, because you're obviously an advanced scout who got separated from your pack. Lucky for me, unlucky for you. Scout made a soft clicking sound, then settled down on the hay. Kelly sat back, wondering what she'd just committed to. What am I doing? She asked herself. This thing is designed to hunt humans. But as she watched Scout curl up and close its eyes, trusting enough to sleep in her presence, Kelly felt strangely hopeful. If this killer creature could accept help from a human, maybe there was more to these beasts than Vrok had planned. Rest up, Scout, she whispered. We've both got some learning to do. 3 weeks after the initial invasion, Kelly watched Scout race around her barn with amazing speed. The beast had healed quickly and grown noticeably larger. What surprised Kelly most was Scout's intelligence. Bring the red ball, she called. Scout immediately distinguished the red ball from several toys and brought it to Kelly. Not only could the creature understand complex commands, but it seemed to be learning English words at an incredible rate. Kelly had kept Scout hidden from authorities. The military would certainly kill the beast if they found it, despite the obvious bond they had formed. Each night, Scout curled up beside Kelly's bed, more like a guardian than a predator. You're nothing like those monsters in the cities, she told Scout, scratching behind the armored plates that framed its face. Scout made a purring sound that Kelly had learned meant contentment. In a makeshift laboratory 200 miles away, Dr. Alan Foster studied tissue samples taken from a beast killed in combat. The military had brought him the specimen hoping he could find a weakness to exploit. These aren't natural creatures, he explained to General Hayes over a secure video link. They've been engineered at the genetic level. Look at these cellular structures. They're designed to be directed somehow. Directed? Laura asked. You mean the Craxians control them remotely? I believe so. There's evidence of neural receptors that respond to specific frequencies. The beasts aren't just hunting on instinct, they're being commanded. This revelation explained why human forces occasionally observed beasts stopping mid-attack, as if receiving new orders. It wasn't independent thought. It was Vrolk adjusting his strategy. In major cities, the situation grew increasingly desperate. Beasts had adapted to human tactics, learning to avoid ambushes and disable security measures. They hunted in coordinated packs, driving terrified civilians into the open where Craxian ships could easily track resistance movements. Commander Vrolk observed the human response with scientific detachment. Their military effectiveness decreases by approximately 12% each day, he noted. Soon, they will have no choice but to surrender. His second-in-command wasn't so confident. Some human units are becoming more effective against the beasts. They've developed armor-piercing rounds that can penetrate the exoskeletons. Vrolk dismissed this concern. Isolated successes. The overall pattern is clear. The humans are losing. Back at her farm, Kelly had made a discovery that contradicted everything being reported about the beasts. Scout had begun mimicking her emotional responses, showing concern when she was upset, excitement when she was happy. One evening, Kelly sat on her porch steps, listening to the emergency broadcast describing another failed defense operation. Scout sensed her sadness and pressed against her side, making a low whining sound. You understand, don't you? Kelly said quietly. You're not just following commands. You actually care. This revelation gave Kelly an idea. If Scout could form an emotional bond that overrode whatever control the Craxians exerted, perhaps other beasts could too. She made a dangerous decision and contacted Dr. Foster through an anonymous message system set up for civilian scientists. I have information about beast behavior that contradicts official reports, she wrote. They can form bonds with humans that seem to override their programming. Alan was skeptical but desperate for any advantage. He arranged a secure video call, expecting to dismiss Kelly's observations as wishful thinking. Instead, he watched in amazement as Scout performed complex tasks based on Kelly's gentle commands, showing none of the aggression reported elsewhere. This is extraordinary, Alan said. It's like the control frequency can be overridden by consistent positive interaction. Scout was injured and alone when I found him, Kelly explained. Maybe that isolation from the others made him more receptive to bonding. Alan's mind raced with possibilities. The subsonic communication we've detected between beasts, perhaps it could be jammed or even replaced with our own signals. As they discussed implications, Scout suddenly raised his head, ears alert. He made a warning sound Kelly had never heard before. Something's wrong, she said, looking out her window. In the distance, she could see dust from approaching vehicles. The military must have traced our call, Alan realized. Kelly, you need to hide Scout. But Kelly had a different idea. No, it's time to show them what Scout can really do. It's time to change how we fight this war. The military vehicle stopped 50 yards from Kelly's farmhouse. Armed soldiers took positions while Captain Joe Rivera approached cautiously. He'd been skeptical when ordered to investigate a civilian claiming to have tamed one of the alien beasts. Ms. Martinez, he called out, this is Captain Rivera. We need you to come out slowly with your hands visible. Kelly appeared on the porch, hands raised. I'll cooperate, but you need to see something important first. We know about the beast, Joe replied tensely. Our orders are to eliminate it and bring you in for questioning. If you try to shoot Scout, you'll be making a terrible mistake, Kelly said calmly. He's the key to defeating the Craxians. Joe hesitated, then gestured for his men to hold position. You have 2 minutes to explain. I'll do better than explain. I'll show you. Kelly turned toward the house. Scout, come. Friends. The soldiers raised their weapons as Scout emerged. The beast had grown considerably, now the size of a small horse, with fully developed armor plates and powerful limbs. But instead of attacking, Scout sat calmly beside Kelly. "Impossible," Joe whispered. "Scout, perimeter check," Kelly commanded. They watched in amazement as the beast circled the area, sniffing for threats but showing no aggression toward the soldiers. Dr. Alan Foster stepped forward from one of the vehicles. "It's true. She's broken their programming somehow." 2 days later, Kelly and Scout were transported to a secure military facility where scientists had developed a subsonic transmitter based on Dr. Foster's research. The device could interfere with the frequencies the Craxians used to control their beasts. "The theory is sound," Alan explained to General Hayes, "but we need to test it in combat conditions." Laura studied Scout, still amazed by his docile behavior around humans. "And you believe other beasts can be converted?" "Not instantly," Kelly clarified. Scout was young and isolated. Adult beasts with established control patterns will be harder to reach, but the transmitter should confuse them enough to disrupt coordinated attacks. In orbit, Commander Volk received troubling reports. Beast units in several cities had begun behaving erratically, sometimes ignoring commands entirely. "The humans have discovered the control frequency," his communication officer reported. Volk slammed his fist on the console. "Impossible. They couldn't decode it so quickly." Nevertheless, beast effectiveness has dropped by 30% in affected areas. Volk made a decisive judgment. "If the beasts are compromised, we must commit our own forces. Prepare landing craft for direct military intervention." On Earth, the first field test of the subsonic transmitter exceeded expectations. When activated near a pack of beasts in the ruins of Denver, the creatures became disoriented, some even turning on each other in confusion. Captain Maria Diaz, now commanding ground forces, saw an opportunity. "If we can disrupt their coordination long enough, we can push back against the Craxian ships when they land." The strategy crystallized quickly. Human forces would use the transmitters to confuse the beasts while preparing ambushes for the Craxian troops. But they needed more intelligence about the alien command structure. "We need to get aboard their main ship," Maria proposed. "Find Volk and end this." "That's suicide," Joe objected. "Their security is impenetrable." "Not for Scout," Kelly said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. The Craxians would never expect one of their own weapons to be used against them. "Scout can get us past their defenses." A daring plan formed. Kelly and Scout would join a small strike team to infiltrate Volk's command ship when it entered the atmosphere to direct the ground assault. In his private quarters, Volk reviewed the upcoming battle plan. His officers had assured him that direct Craxian intervention would quickly overcome human resistance. The Beast program had been a setback, but not a fatal one. "Commander," his tactical officer interrupted. "Human forces are consolidating around their major defense installations. They appear to be preparing for our landing." As expected, Volk replied confidently. "They think they can stand against us directly. They will learn the difference between fighting our weapons and fighting us." Little did he know that Kelly was already training with Scout and a special operations team, preparing for the most audacious mission of the war, bringing the fight directly to the alien commander himself. Kelly crouched in the narrow maintenance tunnel of the Craxian command ship. Scout pressed against her side. The Beast's powerful senses had already helped them avoid 3 patrol groups. Behind her, Captain Joe Rivera and 2 Special Forces soldiers checked their weapons. "How much further?" Joe whispered. Kelly pointed to Scout, who was sniffing the air intently. "He senses something important ahead, probably Volk's command center." Their infiltration had been remarkably successful. When the Craxian ships entered Earth's atmosphere to coordinate their final assault, the strike team had used a captured shuttle to approach under the chaos of battle. Scout's presence had confused the automated security systems, which identified him as an authorized Beast unit. "Remember," Kelly told the team, "once we reach the command center, Scout will create a distraction. That gives us exactly 3 minutes to deploy the transmitter. The plan was simple but dangerous. They would activate a modified version of the subsonic transmitter directly in the ship's control room, disrupting communication with all beast units on Earth simultaneously. Scout suddenly froze, a low rumble in his throat. Kelly recognized his warning signal. "Patrol coming," she whispered. The team flattened against the wall as heavy footsteps approached. 2 Craxian soldiers walked past their hiding spot, discussing battle reports in their guttural language. Scout trembled with tension but remained still, his loyalty to Kelly overriding his programming. After the patrol passed, they continued forward until reaching a sealed door. Scout scratched at it gently, confirming their target. "This is it," Joe said, preparing a small explosive charge. Everyone ready. In the command center beyond, Commander Vrok was growing increasingly frustrated. The humans were fighting with unexpected coordination. Several beast units had stopped responding entirely. "Status report," he demanded. "Ground forces meeting heavy resistance," his tactical officer replied. "The humans have developed some countermeasure against the beasts. We're losing control of nearly 40% of the units." Vrok was about to respond when an explosion ripped through the main door. Through the smoke, a beast charged into the command center. But unlike any beast he'd seen before, this one moved with purpose not dictated by Craxian control. Scout leaped onto the nearest console, causing Craxian officers to scatter in confusion. None had expected to face one of their own weapons here, in the heart of their command. "Security breach," shouted the tactical officer. Kelly and the strike team entered behind Scout, weapons firing. Joe and his soldiers targeted the ship's controls while Kelly activated the transmitter. Vrok stared in shock at the human woman directing a beast with simple hand gestures. "That's impossible," he hissed. "The beasts obey only our commands." Kelly turned toward the alien commander, recognizing him from broadcasts. "What a cute pup, isn't he?" she said, as Scout took position beside her. "Turns out your terror weapon just wanted to be loved." The transmitter activated with a pulse that made the Craxians cover their ears in pain. Across the ship, alarms began blaring. "What have you done?" Vrok demanded. "We've broken your control over every beast on Earth," Joe explained, training his weapon on the commander. "They're free now." Vrok's tactical display confirmed the disaster. Beast units everywhere were ignoring commands, some even turning on Craxian troops. Years of genetic engineering and behavioral conditioning, undone by human empathy. "How?" Vrok asked, genuinely bewildered. "They were designed to be perfect weapons." "That was your mistake," Kelly said, scratching Scout's armored head. "You created intelligent creatures capable of forming bonds, then tried to control them through fear. We offered something better." 3 weeks later, the Craxian Empire signed a formal withdrawal agreement. Earth had established itself as a civilization not to be underestimated, not through superior strength, but through compassion and adaptability. Scout became the first of many beast companions integrated into human society. Their strength and intelligence, once meant to terrorize humanity, now helped rebuild what had been destroyed. Kelly stood on her farmhouse porch, watching Scout run through the fields that had become home to several young beasts. In the evening sky, stars twinkled, no longer symbols of terror, but of possibility. "We showed them something they never expected," she told Joe, who had come to visit. "That sometimes the strongest weapon isn't fear or power. It's understanding," Joe finished, watching as Scout gently played with a beast cub.